So this is really like for your purposes to understand where I'm coming from. So these next two slides, it's pretty much y'all seeing what's in AJ's head, in terms of a framework. So through my pedagogical praxis, these are just some of the names. This is a short list of a longer list of folks that I implement as much as possible. And first and foremost is Paulo Freire, wrote the book Pedagogy of the Press. If you haven't read it, check it out. There's PDF files online. You can get this and read it on your own leisure. This is pretty much one of the foundational works when it comes to radical pedagogy. And Paulo Freire's thing is that, education is never neutral. Education's about advancing radical ideas, and we need to break away from that banking model. When he says banking model, it's that thing that we've all experienced. And in some ways, I'm kind of doing it with you right now, unfortunately, which is you hear something and you bank in your head and you deposit that, and then at some point you're going to output that out at some point. So that's what Freire was saying. We have to break away from that banking model and be among people and to show them the interconnectedness of things that are happening in our society, which made him very successful in Brazil at the time, and has trained so many educators that are still with us today. And those educators have trained many of us currently. One of those people we've trained was Bell Hooks. Bell Hooks, her thing is using the classroom as a transformative space. She really is about, using that classroom as a way to transform learners into the kind of people we would like to see in our society and everything. So she really uses the classroom as a laboratory. And I even talk about that myself when I'm in high schools. Is that, this is a laboratory, and we try to transform as much as possible. One of the books that you need to be reading with Bell Hooks is Teaching to Transgress. That's one of her great books that I would recommend. Edward Said, again, he's the pioneer of what we now consider post-colonial studies. And his ideas about functioning and non-functioning intellectuals. The summary of that is that everyone's an intellectual. And it's that idea that we need to break away, that those who are more educated, the ones with the PhDs, the one at Harvard or with the ivory towers, like those are intellectuals. No, every single one of us are intellectuals. The trade worker is an intellectual. The person in the streets is the intellectual. Myself, who is both formally and self-taught educated, is an intellectual. Every single one of us is an intellectual at some level, and coming together to work together will make us a better society. Sonia Borges, recently have been introduced by her, is a really great person. Her ideas about militant education, and essentially it's about living among the people, before the people, and behind the people. And that's the thing about militant education, that when we're talking about education, we have to be with people at their level, not talking down at them. We have to be with them. We have to understand how to transform them as well. Michael Apple, professor at University of Wisconsin-Madison. He has an article called Ideology and Curriculum, where he talks about school controls the meaning to reinforce the current hegemonic culture. And in other words, Apple really says that it's the institution known as education controls the narrative. And if we understand that, then we need to break away from that. And then I'm going to be talking about a little bit later how we can break away from that. So if we understand that the institution of education controls the narrative as to what you need to know, and that's how we learn. And we see this today with, you know, what's going on with the pandemic and with critical race theory and everything else. Then we really need to understand that if we start breaking away from what the hegemonic culture has been teaching us since kindergarten, then the more we will start advancing ourselves and start really thinking very critically, being open to more ideas, and really engaging in the kind of conversations we need to be having and everything. And Lev Vygotsky is a social constructivist theorist who believes of having learners socially interact with one another as collaborators to gain that kind of knowledge. So again, this is just a short list of many folks that I use in my toolbox when it comes to education. The next slide.